My name is Elian, and I was 10 summers old when the ground coughed up the ape. Not a real ape, like the Barbary macaques old man Tiberius keeps in his orchard. Those are cheeky, quick things, always stealing figs. This was, older. Much older. It happened in the year of the Great Comet, 1152, during the reign of Emperor Manuel Comnenus. We lived in Messenia, in the Peloponnese, a land still whispering with the ghosts of heroes and gods, even though most folks now prayed to the one God of the Christians. Our village, Koryfasio, wasn't much to look at. Stone houses huddled together like sheep against the wind, clinging to the slopes of Mount Lykaion. The mountain itself was a brooding presence, always watching. They said it was where Zeus was born, raised by the nymphs. My grandfather, Papoyanus, swore he'd seen the shadows of the gods dancing on the peaks during a thunderstorm. I mostly saw goats. My father, Demetrius, was a stonemason, a good one. He built walls, repaired churches, and sometimes carved little saints for folks to keep in their homes. He had hands like granite, strong and sure, but he was a quiet man, lost in his work. My mother, Irene, was the heart of our house. She smelled of olive oil and thyme, and her laughter could chase away the darkest clouds. I had a younger sister, Sophia, who was all sunshine and mischief, always getting into trouble. Life was steady. We farmed olives and grapes, traded with the merchants who came through the valley, and went to church on Sundays. It wasn't a grand life, but it was ours. Until the digging started. It wasn't a planned dig, not like the scholars sometimes do, poking around for broken pottery. Old man Costas, who owned the field just outside the village, was trying to build a new wine press. His old one had crumbled, and the harvest was coming. He'd been at it for days, hacking away at the earth with his pickaxe, when he hit something hard. Stone, he bellowed, and everyone nearby went to see. But it wasn't just stone. It was bone. Big bones. Bones unlike anything anyone had ever seen. I was there, of course. I always followed old man Costas around. He told the best stories, tales of pirates and hidden treasures. He smelled of earth and sweat and something else, something ancient. The bones weren't white like the bones of sheep or goats. They were dark, almost black, stained by the earth and time. They were thick, too, much thicker than any animal bone I'd ever seen. And there were so many of them, tangled together in the dirt. "What is it?" Sophia asked, her voice small. Old man Costas just shook his head, his face pale. "I don't know, child. I don't know." Word spread through the village like wildfire. Soon, everyone was gathered around the pit, staring down at the bones. Papoyanus was the first to speak. "This is a sign," he said, his voice trembling. "A sign from the old gods. They are reminding us they are still here." Most folks dismissed his words as the ramblings of an old man, but there was a nervousness in the air. The bones felt wrong. They felt like something that shouldn't be disturbed. My father, Demetrius, examined the bones carefully. He ran his calloused fingers over the smooth surfaces, his brow furrowed in concentration. "These are not human bones," he said finally. "But they are not like any animal I know either. Look at the shape of the skull. And the size of the teeth." He was right. The skull was different. It was longer, flatter, with a heavy brow ridge. The teeth were enormous, much larger than a man's. It looked like an ape, but an ape that walked upright. The village priest, Father Gregorios, arrived, his face stern. He sprinkled holy water over the bones and began to chant prayers. "This is the work of the devil," he declared. "A creature of darkness, unearthed from the depths of hell." He ordered the bones to be covered up, to be forgotten. But it was too late. The seed of curiosity had been planted. The next day, a messenger arrived from Mystras, the nearby Byzantine city. He was sent by Lord Nikitas, the governor, who had heard rumors of the discovery. Lord Nikitas was a learned man, interested in history and ancient things. He sent a scholar, a man named Leo, to investigate. Leo was a strange fellow. He wore spectacles perched on his nose, and he carried a satchel filled with books and scrolls. He spoke in a precise, measured tone, and he smelled of parchment and ink. He spent days examining the bones, sketching them in his notebook, and measuring them with strange instruments. He questioned everyone in the village, asking about the location of the find, the surrounding landscape, and any local legends. He was particularly interested in Papoyiannis's stories about Mount Lykaion and the old gods. "This is a remarkable discovery," Leo announced one evening, after days of study. "These bones belong to a creature that lived many, many years ago. Before the Greeks, before the Romans, even before the Mycenaeans. A creature that may be an ancestor of man." He explained that there were stories, whispered among scholars, of ancient apes that walked upright, creatures that lived in the forests of Greece millions of years ago. He called them anthropoids, meaning man-like. He believed that these bones might be evidence of their existence. "This could change everything we know about the history of mankind," he said, his eyes shining with excitement. Most folks didn't understand what he was saying. They just saw a strange man talking about old bones. But I listened, fascinated. The idea that this creature, this ape, might be related to us, to me, was astonishing. Leo decided to excavate the site further. He hired several villagers, including my father, to help him. They carefully removed the earth around the bones, uncovering more and more fragments. They found a jawbone, a rib cage, a leg bone, and even a piece of a skull. As the bones were unearthed, a strange object was discovered alongside them. It was a stone, a smooth, round stone, carved with intricate symbols. It wasn't like any stone I'd ever seen. It felt warm to the touch, and it seemed to glow faintly in the sunlight. Leo was ecstatic. "This is incredible," he exclaimed. "A tool. A relic. This proves that these creatures were intelligent, capable of creating things." He called the stone the Sunstone, because of its warm glow. He believed that it was a symbol of the creature's connection to the sun, to life, to the world around it. The excavation continued for weeks. The pit grew larger and deeper, revealing more and more bones. Leo and his team worked tirelessly, carefully documenting every find. The village buzzed with excitement. Even Father Gregorio seemed less certain about the devil's involvement. I spent most of my days watching them work, asking questions, and trying to understand what they were doing. I helped carry water, fetch tools, and sweep away the dirt. I became Leo's shadow, following him everywhere, listening to his explanations. He taught me about fossils, about geology, about the history of the earth. He showed me how to identify different types of rocks and bones. He even let me help him sketch the bones in his notebook. "You have a good eye, Elian," he said one day. "You are a keen observer." His words made me feel proud. I had never thought of myself as being good at anything, but Leo seemed to think I had potential. As the excavation progressed, I began to feel a strange connection to the creature whose bones they were unearthing. I imagined what it must have been like to live in this land so long ago, to walk among the forests and mountains, to hunt and gather food. I wondered what its life was like, what it thought about, what it feared. I started to dream about the creature. I dreamed of a shadowy ape, walking upright, its eyes glowing in the darkness. It wasn't a frightening dream, but a sad one. The ape seemed lonely, lost, and forgotten. One evening, while I was helping Leo clean the Sunstone, I noticed something strange. The symbols carved into the stone seemed to shift and change, as if they were alive. I blinked my eyes, but they were still moving. "Leo!" I exclaimed. "Look! The symbols are moving." Leo rushed over and examined the stone. He adjusted his spectacles and peered at the symbols closely. "I don't see anything, Elian," he said. "You must be imagining things." But I knew I wasn't. The symbols were definitely moving. They were swirling and twisting, forming new patterns. Suddenly, a wave of dizziness washed over me. I stumbled backward, clutching my head. I felt a strange pressure in my skull, as if something was trying to break through. I closed my eyes and gasped for breath. When I opened them again, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The sunstone was glowing brightly, and the symbols were now forming a picture. It was a picture of the ape, the creature whose bones they had unearthed. But it wasn't just a picture. It was a vision. I saw the ape walking through a lush forest, surrounded by other creatures. I saw it building shelters, making tools, and hunting for food. I saw it interacting with its family, caring for its young. I saw it facing dangers, battling predators, and struggling to survive. I saw it witnessing the changing of the seasons, the rising and falling of the sun, the ebb and flow of life. And then, I saw something terrible. I saw a great cataclysm, a massive earthquake that shook the earth to its foundations. I saw the forest collapsing, the mountains crumbling, and the land being swallowed by the sea. I saw the ape and its family fleeing for their lives, desperately searching for a safe haven. But there was nowhere to go. The earth was cracking open beneath their feet, and the sky was falling down around them. I saw the ape fall to its knees, its eyes filled with despair. And then, everything went black. I gasped and stumbled backward, collapsing onto the ground. Leo rushed to my side, his face filled with concern. "Elian! What's wrong? Are you all right?" I couldn't speak. I was still reeling from the vision. I felt exhausted, drained, and utterly shaken. I saw something," I stammered. "I saw the ape, I saw its life, I saw its death." Leo looked at me skeptically. "You had a dream, Elian. A vivid dream, perhaps, but just a dream." But I knew it wasn't just a dream. It was a memory. A memory that had been stored within the Sunstone, waiting to be awakened. I told Leo everything I had seen, describing the forest, the creatures, the earthquake, and the ape's final moments. He listened intently, his expression changing from skepticism to curiosity. "This is remarkable," he said finally. "If what you say is true, then the Sunstone is more than just a relic. It's a window into the past. A way to connect with the ancient world." He decided to study the Sunstone more closely, hoping to unlock more of its secrets. He spent hours examining the symbols, trying to decipher their meaning. He consulted with other scholars, sending them copies of his sketches and notes. Meanwhile, the excavation continued. They found more bones, including a complete skeleton. Leo was overjoyed. "This is a triumph," he exclaimed. "We have found a complete specimen. This will allow us to learn so much more about this creature." He carefully assembled the skeleton, piece by piece, creating a life-sized replica of the ancient ape. It was a magnificent sight. The ape stood tall and proud, its bones gleaming in the sunlight. But as the skeleton was assembled, a strange thing began to happen. The weather changed. The sky grew dark and ominous. The wind howled through the mountains. The villagers became restless. They whispered among themselves, fearing that the disturbance of the bones had angered the gods. Papoyanus warned that the ape's spirit was seeking revenge. Father Gregorios ordered more prayers to be said, hoping to appease the divine powers. But the weather only worsened. One day, a terrible storm descended upon Koryfasio. The rain fell in torrents, the wind ripped through the trees, and the thunder shook the ground. The river overflowed its banks, flooding the fields and houses. The villagers huddled together in their homes, praying for the storm to pass. But it didn't. It raged on for days, causing widespread destruction. During the storm, the pit where the bones had been unearthed collapsed. The skeleton was buried under a mountain of mud and debris. The Sunstone was lost. Leo was devastated. "All our work, gone," he cried. "The skeleton, the Sunstone, everything." He blamed himself for the disaster, believing that he had been too reckless in his pursuit of knowledge. He decided to abandon the excavation and return to Mystras. "This is a sign," he said. "The gods do not want us to disturb the past. We must leave it alone." He packed his belongings and prepared to leave. But before he did, he came to say goodbye to me. "Elian," he said, "you have been a great help to me. You have a gift for observation, and a thirst for knowledge. Don't ever lose that." He handed me a small notebook, filled with his sketches and notes. "Keep this," he said. "It's a record of our discoveries. Perhaps one day, you will continue our work." I thanked him and promised to cherish the notebook. He smiled sadly and then turned to leave. As he walked away, I felt a pang of sadness. I would miss him. He had been a friend, a mentor, and a source of inspiration. But I also felt a sense of hope. I knew that the story of the ape wasn't over. The Sunstone was still out there, waiting to be found. And I, Elian, would be the one to find it. The storm eventually subsided, leaving behind a trail of destruction. The village was in ruins. The fields were flooded. The people were heartbroken. But they were also resilient. They began to rebuild their homes, repair their fields, and restore their lives. My father, Demetrius, worked tirelessly, using his skills as a stonemason to rebuild the village walls. My mother, Irene, comforted the grieving and provided food for the hungry. Sophia, my little sister, helped in any way she could, gathering firewood and tending to the animals. And I, Elian, continued to study Leo's notebook, learning everything I could about the ape and the Sunstone. I spent hours exploring the mountains, searching for clues. I knew that the ape wasn't just a creature of the past. It was a part of us, a part of our history, a part of our identity. And I was determined to uncover its story, to share it with the world. Years passed. I grew older, stronger, and wiser. I became a stonemason like my father, learning to shape and carve stone with skill and precision. But I never forgot the ape, or the Sunstone. I continued to search for the Sunstone, exploring every cave, every crevice, every hidden corner of Mount Lykaion. I questioned the old villagers, listening to their stories and legends. One day, while I was working on a new church in a remote part of the mountain, I stumbled upon a hidden cave. The entrance was concealed by a thick curtain of vines. I hesitated for a moment, wondering whether to enter. But I knew that I had to. This could be it. This could be where the Sunstone was hidden. I pushed aside the vines and stepped into the cave. It was dark and damp, and the air was thick with the smell of earth and moss. I lit a torch and held it high, illuminating the cave. And then, I saw it. In the center of the cave, resting on a stone pedestal, was the Sunstone. It was glowing faintly, just as I remembered. I rushed forward and picked up the stone. It felt warm and familiar in my hand. The symbols carved into its surface seemed to pulse with energy. I closed my eyes and focused my mind. And then, the vision returned. I saw the ape again, walking through the forest, building shelters, making tools, and hunting for food. I saw it facing dangers, battling predators, and struggling to survive. But this time, I saw something new. I saw the ape teaching its young, passing on its knowledge and skills. I saw it creating art, carving symbols into stone, and telling stories around the fire. I saw it developing a culture, a way of life, a sense of community. I saw it evolving, adapting, and becoming more and more like us. And then, I saw the earthquake again. But this time, I saw something different. I saw the ape using its intelligence and ingenuity to survive. I saw it building stronger shelters, developing new tools, and finding new sources of food. I saw it adapting to the changing environment, learning to live with the disaster. I saw it persevering, enduring, and refusing to give up. And then, I saw the ape's descendants. They were different from the ape I had first seen. They were smaller, more agile, and more intelligent. They had learned to walk upright, to use tools, and to communicate with each other. They were the ancestors of man. I opened my eyes, tears streaming down my face. I understood now. The ape wasn't just a creature of the past. It was a part of us, a part of our heritage, a part of our future. The Sunstone wasn't just a relic. It was a key. A key to unlocking the secrets of our origins, to understanding our place in the world. I knew that I had a responsibility to share this knowledge with others. To tell the story of the ape, to honor its memory, and to celebrate its legacy. I returned to Koryfasio and told everyone what I had seen. At first, they were skeptical. But as I spoke, they began to believe me. They saw the passion in my eyes, the conviction in my voice, and the truth in my words. They realized that the ape wasn't just a creature of the past. It was a part of them, a part of their history, a part of their identity. They decided to rebuild the village, not as it was before, but as a tribute to the ape. They built a new church, dedicated to the memory of the ancient creature. They carved images of the ape into the walls of their homes. They told stories about the ape to their children. And they kept the Sunstone safe, guarding it as a sacred treasure. I continued to study the Sunstone, learning more and more about the ape and its world. I wrote down everything I discovered, filling notebooks with my observations and insights. I became a storyteller, traveling from village to village, sharing the story of the ape with anyone who would listen. I told them about its life, its struggles, and its legacy. I taught them that we are all connected, that we are all part of the same family, that we all share a common ancestry. And I reminded them that we must never forget the past, for it is the past that shapes our present and determines our future. The story of the ape became a legend, passed down from generation to generation. It was a story of courage, resilience, and hope. It was a story of our origins, our identity, and our destiny. And it all began with a young boy, a stone, and an ape found in the earth. A sunstone and a shadow ape, whispering secrets of a time long gone, reminding us of who we are, and where we come from. The mountain still watches, and sometimes, when the light is just right, I think I see a shadow moving among the peaks, a silent guardian of the past, a reminder that we are never truly alone. Years turned into decades. My hair, once the color of sun-baked wheat, was now streaked with silver. Sophia had long since married and blessed me with grandchildren, their laughter echoing through the rebuilt Koryfasio. The village thrived, a testament to the enduring spirit of our people and the memory of the ape we'd unearthed. I continued to be the keeper of the story, the teller of tales, but the weight of years began to settle upon my shoulders. I knew my time to join the ancestors was drawing near. It was during the reign of Emperor Isaac II Angelos, a time of growing unrest and whispers of trouble from the north, that a new arrival disturbed the quiet rhythm of our lives. A cartographer, Master Demetrius, no relation to my father, though the name was common enough, arrived with a retinue of assistants, commissioned by the emperor to map the Peloponnese with unprecedented accuracy. He was a stern man, meticulous and driven, obsessed with lines and angles and the precise measurement of the world. He set up camp just outside the village, his tents a stark white against the green of the olive groves. His assistants, young men mostly, busied themselves with surveying instruments and rolls of parchment. Master Demetrius himself spent his days pacing the landscape, sketching and calculating, his brow perpetually furrowed in concentration. He initially dismissed my stories of the ape as folklore, the ramblings of an old man. Interesting tales, alien, he said, his voice dry, but hardly useful for cartography. I deal in facts, in verifiable measurements, not in myths and legends. But his daughter, Helena, was different. She was a wisp of a girl, barely 17 summers old, with eyes the color of the Aegean Sea and a spirit as wild as the mountain winds. She wasn't interested in surveying or map making. She preferred to wander the hills, sketching wildflowers and observing the birds. She found me one afternoon, sitting beneath the ancient olive tree in the village square, whittling a small wooden ape for my grandson. "My father says your stories are just stories," she said, her voice soft. "But I think there might be more to them." I smiled. "Your father is a man of science. He sees the world in lines and angles. I see it in shadows and whispers." I told her the story of the ape, from the discovery of the bones to the vision I'd had with the Sunstone. I showed her Leo's notebook, filled with his sketches and notes. I spoke of the earthquake, the storm, and the enduring legacy of the ancient creature. Helena listened intently, her eyes wide with wonder. She asked questions, probing and insightful, challenging my assumptions and pushing me to remember details I had long forgotten. "You truly believe this ape was an ancestor of ours?" she asked finally. "I do," I said. "I believe it was a link to a past we have lost, a reminder of our origins." Helena began to spend her days with me, learning about the ape, exploring the mountains, and searching for clues. She was a quick learner, a natural scholar, and she possessed a keen eye for detail. She noticed things that I had missed, subtle patterns in the landscape, unusual rock formations, and traces of ancient settlements. She began to suspect that the ape hadn't just lived in the forests of Mount Lykaion. It had inhabited the entire Peloponnese, leaving its mark on the land. "My father is mapping the physical landscape," she said one day. But perhaps we should be mapping the ancient landscape, the landscape of the ape. We began to work together, combining my knowledge of the local legends with her cartographic skills. We created a new map, not of the present-day Peloponnese, but of the Peloponnese as it might have been millions of years ago, when the ape roamed the land. We marked the locations of fossil discoveries, ancient settlements, and unusual geological formations. We traced the paths of ancient rivers and streams. We identified areas that might have been suitable habitats for the ape. Our map was unlike anything Master Demetrius had ever seen. It wasn't precise or accurate in the traditional sense. It was a map of possibilities, a map of potential, a map of the past. He was furious when he discovered what we were doing. "This is a waste of time," he thundered. "You are indulging in fantasy, Helena. You are letting this old man fill your head with nonsense." He forbade her from working with me, ordering her to focus on her duties as his assistant. But Helena refused to obey. "I am learning more from Elian than I ever could from you," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "I am learning about the history of this land, about the creatures that lived here before us, about the mysteries that lie hidden beneath our feet." Master Demetrius was enraged. He threatened to send her back to Constantinople, to confine her to a convent. But Helena stood her ground. "I will not be silenced," she declared. "I will not let you dismiss the truth just because it doesn't fit your preconceived notions." The conflict between father and daughter escalated, creating a rift in their relationship. The entire camp was caught in the crossfire. I felt terrible. I didn't want to cause trouble for Helena. I didn't want to come between her and her father. "Perhaps we should stop," I said to her one evening. "Perhaps we are causing too much harm." But Helena refused to give up. "No, Elian," she said. "We are on the verge of a breakthrough. I can feel it. We must continue." She convinced me to take her to a remote part of Mount Lykaion, a place that Papoyanus had always warned against. He said it was a sacred place, a place where the gods still walked. The place was a narrow gorge, hidden deep within the mountain. The walls of the gorge were covered in strange carvings, symbols that resembled those on the Sunstone. "Look!" Helena exclaimed. "These carvings, they're not random. They're a map. A map of the ape's territory." We spent days studying the carvings, deciphering their meaning. We discovered that they depicted a network of caves, tunnels, and hidden pathways that crisscrossed the mountain. "The ape didn't just live in the forests," Helena said. "It lived inside the mountain. It created a subterranean world, a hidden sanctuary." We decided to explore the caves, hoping to find more evidence of the ape's existence. We armed ourselves with torches and ropes and ventured into the darkness. The caves were damp and claustrophobic, filled with the smell of earth and bats. We crawled through narrow tunnels, climbed over rocky obstacles, and waded through underground streams. After hours of exploration, we stumbled upon a large cavern. The cavern was filled with strange formations, stalactites and stalagmites that resembled the bones of the ape. And in the center of the cavern, resting on a stone pedestal, was another sunstone. This sunstone was different from the one I had found years ago. It was larger, more ornate, and it glowed with an even brighter light. As I reached out to touch the stone, a wave of dizziness washed over me. I closed my eyes and braced myself for the vision. This time, the vision was different. It wasn't a replay of the past. It was a glimpse into the future. I saw the Peloponnese transformed. The forests were gone, replaced by fields and cities. The mountains were scarred by quarries and mines. The rivers were polluted by waste. I saw the people of the Peloponnese forgetting their history, losing their connection to the land, and destroying the natural world around them. I saw a future of darkness and despair. I opened my eyes, gasping for breath. I was horrified by what I had seen. "We must warn them," I exclaimed. "We must tell them what is going to happen." Helena nodded. "We must do everything we can to prevent it." We returned to the village and told everyone about the vision. At first, they were skeptical. But as we spoke, they began to believe us. They saw the fear in our eyes, the urgency in our voices, and the truth in our words. They realized that the ape wasn't just a creature of the past. It was a warning. A warning about the dangers of greed, the consequences of destruction, and the importance of preserving the natural world. They vowed to change their ways, to live in harmony with the land, and to protect the legacy of the ape. Master Demetrius, witnessing the transformation in his daughter and the villagers, finally understood the importance of our work. He abandoned his meticulous mapping and joined us in our efforts to preserve the past. He used his cartographic skills to create a new map, a map of the Peloponnese as it should be, a map of a sustainable future. And Helena, the cartographer's daughter, became the guardian of the Sunstone, the keeper of the story, and the champion of the ape. My time grew short. I sat beneath the ancient olive tree, surrounded by my family and friends, watching the sunset. I knew that I was leaving the world in good hands. Helena would carry on my work, ensuring that the story of the ape would never be forgotten. As I closed my eyes for the last time, I saw a vision of the ape, walking through a lush forest, its eyes glowing with hope. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always light. And that even in the face of destruction, there is always the possibility of renewal. The mountain still watches, and now, I watch with it, a silent guardian of the past, a hopeful witness to the future. The sunstone glows, a beacon in the darkness, and the shadow ape walks on, in the hearts of those who remember.